Okay, what's a house worth? This can often be confusing, especially when you're a first home buyer. What price does the vendor want? If they advertise a property for $300,000, it generally means if you offer $300,000 for that property, they'll happily accept it. But it also means if you offer a little bit less, they're probably happy to negotiate on that sort of range. So for a $300,000 house, you'd be quite confident that you're not going to pay any more than that amount of money. $300,000 plus, that's actually very different. It probably means that the vendor is after $330,000 because by law they can't advertise less than 10%. So they probably want $330,000 for that house. So by advertising $300,000, they get a bit of interest and they can actually get you in to see the property. It's often a strategy used at auctions that they'll put it in at $300,000 plus, for example, and you know that once the bidding hits about $330,000, that the property's on the market from that point on. $300,000 to $330,000. Obviously, the vendor wants $330,000, and obviously the purchaser wants to pay $300,000. So at the end of the day, probably you'll meet somewhere in the middle. It really depends on what the vendor wants. They might want that $330,000, but don't expect to go in there and go, oh great, it's between $300,000 and $330,000, I'm going to get a bargain, because you've got to understand that they do want the highest price they can get. Point of application or sale by set date. This is when they advertise a price with either of these terms and you don't know what they want. So this is when it comes into the data, knowing what the market is really going to pay for this sort of house. That's where it becomes important. It's basically like a silent auction where you're not bidding up against each other, but you put in your offer by a certain date, and if you're the highest bidder, as long as that's above reserve, you'll get the property at that price. So that's when it's most important to really do your research and know what a place is worth, because they're hoping that you'll put in an overly priced amount and do well. Real estate agents, okay. They work for the vendor, and obviously ethically they have to get the best price they possibly can. Some real estate agents aren't so good and they'll probably give away a few too many tips. I spoke to one particular agent 6 months ago. Over our back fence was for sale, and I think it was $320,000 plus. And I knew the history of the house, being a neighbour, and I had a chat to him and he said, oh look, they'll accept $330,000, whereas going by the 10% rule, they really wanted $350,000. So him telling me this information probably wasn't what he should have done. In the end, though, it went to auction and it was passed in. But at the end of the day, he managed to convince the person to pay $357,000 anyway. So if I had bought the house, because of what he told me earlier, just by speaking to him, I would have paid $330,000. So I was at a $27,000 advantage just by speaking to the agent and knowing this bit of information. So it just goes to show, if you have a general chat to them, you might follow them around to a few open inspections on one day and build that relationship. You can probably get a good price, even though they're working for the vendor. And like I said, they can do the legwork for you. Potentially on that deal, I could have saved a lot of money if that was the type of house I was buying. So it's just, yeah, build that relationship. They probably don't know much more than you about that particular house. So ask them questions. They might get back to you and find out and see what you can do from there. Like I said, just build that relationship. Let them know your needs as well. I mentioned that earlier. 3-bedroom house, 2-bathroom, or I'm an investor, I want this type of house. And then they might come back to you with a few options. If they don't know what your needs is and they get a house on the market before it's even advertised, they might be ringing you. That saves them advertising costs. So by being silent, you'll never know. Whereas if you build that relationship and let them know, you could be doing them a favour, as well as getting in on a deal before anyone else knows about it and satisfying your needs.